Let's speak now to Talk International editor Isabel Oakeshott. Hi, Isabel.
Hi, Alex. I mean, this is so much mischief making by reform's opponents. It is a deliberate attempt to damage reform. It's complete nonsense. Anyone who knows Nigel Farage knows that he despises the Tory party as a machine. He may not despise individual former Conservatives, but he always says, never trust a Tory. That is a Nigel mantra. And the idea that the Reform Party at this point would be talking about, even off the record, pacts with the Conservatives, I'm afraid is two things. Total wishful thinking on the part of the dying Tory party, who deservedly are going extinct, A, and B, damage operation. This is a smear operation by left-wing media. That's what it is.
Let's have a look at the remarks of a man you might be familiar with this morning on The Breakfast Show.
In one sentence, with one question, imagine I'm Noel Edmonds, Richard Tice. Deal or no deal?
No deal.
Well, there you go. That was definitely short and sweet. I mean, this apparently has come from donors, and maybe they're donors who have come from the Conservative Party, because I've met a few of these types in my existence, and a lot of them still have this sort of belief that the Conservative Party might still make it back. They could magically regrow, resurrect, like on Easter Sunday. And one in particular said something which, you know, knowing what I know about Reform UK and Nigel Farage, one of them has suggested that actually what Nigel might be up for is forming a right-wing mega party co-led by Nigel and Boris Johnson. I can't think of anything that Nigel would dislike more.
Sorry, I lost you there for a minute there, Alex, but I think I know what you said, which was, I can't think of anything that Nigel would find more abhorrent than the idea of co-leading a party with Boris Johnson. Look, this isn't going to happen. This is absolute fantasy land or nightmare land, whichever way you look at it. I also speak to some of these Tory types, and you know, they're very patronising without probably meaning to be. Their attitude is, well, you guys, you know, you're doing really well, but when it comes to the push comes to shove, you don't really know how to run things. You don't have our institutional knowledge. You know, you don't have our century of, you know, experience of ground force operations, etc., yada, 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 yada. What this means is we see ourselves going extinct and we want to piggyback on you because now you're riding high. And you know what? I find it pretty distasteful, actually. You know, these are the same people that used to jeer and mock and laugh. You know, when my partner Richard Tice was leader of the party, jeering and mocking and privately saying, oh, you guys, you'll never get anywhere. But, you know, there, have your little fun. You know, and now we are actually getting somewhere and they want to be part of it. And I would suggest that they drop this little fantasy of theirs and let Nigel Farage continue doing what he's trying to do, which is to put them out of business.
Are we at risk now of there being, according to maybe Reform UK members and voters, too many Tories coming over? There were 3 other defections the other day, primarily people who'd lost their seats, who suddenly go, oh, maybe I want to be an MP again. And people saying, that's not fair, don't parachute them in. There's had to be communiques saying, look, you know, the membership will be prioritised. We're not going to suddenly allow these has-been Tories to be put to the top of the queue. And now there are various people saying, oh, come on, Robert Jenrick, we've got to have Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick saying, I'm not going to go. And other people saying he will go if he's given a high office. I mean, at what point does Reform draw the line and say, perhaps we do need experience, perhaps we will take certain defectors, but actually go away?
Yeah. Well, what a great position to be in, to have that dilemma. I think it's what you could call a nice problem to have. I would say that each case needs to be looked at on its individual merits, and I'm sure that is what the leader of the party is doing, assessing each individual who says they want to defect, or you know they want to move over in some shape or form, whether it's that they want to ultimately be a candidate or whatever. The party leadership has to look at those people and say, what are they going to bring to the reform movement? And if the answer to that is nothing, then I'm pretty sure they're going to be rejected. And ultimately, what the party leadership is trying to do is drive the Conservative Party out of business. And I completely understand that slight queasiness on the part of the long marchers, on the part of the activists, on the part of all those unsung volunteers that kept the show on the road before reform became fashionable, and indeed have continued grafting away to build it to where it is today. I understand their queasiness at the idea of these Tory has-beens just sailing in. But ultimately, the party leadership believes that they have value to offer. And ultimately, what Nigel Farage is trying to do, as I said before, is put the Tories out of business. And every one of those little defections, big or small, is deeply demoralising for the diminished band of Conservatives that remain.
Let's move on now to another story, which is apparently the WI, the Women's Institute, probably the oldest, most established female-only organisation in the United Kingdom, has actually banned transgender women from becoming members. Good. The Supreme Court, of course, ruled back in April, months ago now, about the definition of a woman under the Equality Act was based on biological sex. And we're still waiting, aren't we, for Bridget Phillips, who's sitting on that, to actually make a decision about how this is going to be put into law. She doesn't want to, but rightly so. The Women's Institute have taken it under their own steam to say we don't want transgenders. We don't want men joining our institution.
Well, clue's in the name, isn't it? It's called the Women's Institute, not the Trans Institute or the Women and Trans Institute. I don't know why this took anyone any time to consider. It would be a decision I would have not even had to mull over. It's just there in the title, and that's the raison d'etre of the Women's Institute, to be women and do women things.
I couldn't agree more. Good for them, I say. And I think other organisations need to have the confidence to do the same, because we know if anyone tries to legally challenge it, regardless of Bridget Phillips and not doing anything with the Supreme Court ruling yet, that they will win. So if you're a women's organisation and you want to say this is strictly biological females only, go ahead and do it. That would be my advice. Now, let's talk about Rachel Reeves. The story's going on and on and on. And it's always interesting getting different people's takes on this. I mean, the way I see it is this. I went back and looked at everything she said in front of Parliament to find the smoking gun where she lied. And she's been very clever, in my opinion, because she didn't say, since the end of October, we have a black hole. She didn't say that in front of Parliament. She talks about there was a black hole. But outside of that, and certainly at her conference speech, the mood music has been very clear. She has led everybody to believe, not just me, not just you, not just the audience, but people like Chris Mason, the BBC's political editor, who has said this. She led the whole nation into believing that we were financially in dire straits when we weren't. Then what happens just before the budget is this interesting accident, where the OBR's report gets put up online an hour early, which, given what we've later found out, suddenly has taken on a different pallor. And as a result, the head of the budget watchdog has had to quit. Rachel Reeves wasn't present in PMQ. She wasn't there to answer any questions. Who would have thunk she might try and evade that one? But what do you think has gone on here? Do you think that when you've got the Conservatives reporting her to the Financial Services Authority, Reform UK reporting her to the Parliamentary Ethics Committee, do you think that they're going to be able to get her bang to rights?
Well, just a correction there, unless I'm going mad, which is entirely possible. I mean, she was at PMQs today, unless my mind is playing tricks on me. I only watched
I was listening to it on the radio, but she was James Murray who's sort of put up to answer the questions, right?
Well, at PMQs, it was Keir Starmer who was answering the questions.
But then after that, I tuned out. I was on the train, I was listening to it on the radio, so correct me if I'm wrong, because when the first questions was asked by Mel Stride, it was little old James Murray who was sort of put into the firing line.
I think that was not PMQs, that was a debate that followed, and she may well have scuttled out of the chamber. I would imagine that she probably scuttled away as soon as the pressure came on. Can she be got banged right? Do you know what? I don't think it matters. Politically, I don't think it matters whether she's, technically nailed for having lied or not. The damage is done. the nation knows what the nation knows, which is that they're getting poorer, and their general impression is that the Chancellor is not in control of things, or insofar as she is in control of things, she has manipulated information, she has been misleading in order to suit a political agenda. And that political agenda is about surviving within the parliamentary party, within her fellow MPs, and being able to please the base Labour vote, which is, you know, many of which I'm afraid is benefit claimants or welfare dependents. And you know what I think is really galling for people? I get most normal people don't sit there and watch Prime Minister's questions like we do. But the Prime Minister today, I think he said it about 7 times. He used the word proud. He kept on saying, I'm proud of what we've done here, there and everywhere. He's proud. I thought, here's the problem. You have no shame. How can you stand up there and say you're proud when the nation is in the state that it is in, when most people feel utterly wretched about what's being imposed on them, when most people, when Rachel Reeves stood up there and said, I'm asking everyone to contribute more, thought, I'm already contributing more than I can afford in order to prop up people who can't be bothered to do a hard day's work.
Yeah,
How
you
can
and
be
me
proud?
both. Do you know what really gets my goat? The one that triggers me, for want of a better phrase, is whenever they say, because it's the right thing to do. No, it's not the right thing to do. How dare you lecture me on what is right and wrong? You absolute... shall we see how triggered we get watching a clip of Sir Keir Starmer defending Rachel Reeves at PMQs?
Under this Chancellor, Mr Speaker, growth is up this year, defeating and beating the forecast. Wages are up, more since the general election than in 10 years of the Tories. We've had, I think, 5 interest rate cuts, NHS waiting lists are down, we've had record investment into this country. We're turning the page on their austerity and reckless experiment on borrowing. I'd compare that record to them every day of the week.
Oh, at least you didn't say because it's the right thing to do, because I think I would have actually lobbed my soup across the room.
100%. He made references to it being the right thing to do in different ways, going, you know, there's a moral duty to lift children out of poverty. Well, yes, of course there is, but the debate isn't about that. Literally, I don't know anyone who says, I want to keep children in poverty. The debate is about the mechanisms you use to do that, and whether it overall makes more sense to keep dishing out benefits to supposedly lift children out of poverty, or is it the case that you support and encourage and frankly sometimes use both carrot and stick to encourage and perhaps force parents to actually look after their own children and lift them out of poverty?
But this is the thing, it is relative poverty, i.e. in this country the average family has a big old telly, smartphones, 2 cars on the drive, etc. The relative poverty is someone who's got a big old telly, a smartphone, 1 car on the drive, probably given to them by Motability. Do you know what I mean? It isn't poverty. There might be some people out there who genuinely are struggling to put food on the table, who are genuinely struggling to pay for their heating. And do you know who those people are? The working people.
Yes.
The working people are the ones who are struggling, because now if you're on the average blimmin' salary and you have 3 kids, you're getting less money by quite some degree than someone who's not working with three kids. Now that, Sir Keir Starmer, is the wrong thing to do. That is morally abhorrent.
Alex, for, I don't know, if not Deputy PM, then something else there. That was quite the rant. I was loving that. And I agree with every word of it. You know, I really object to this notion that people who don't agree with dishing out more benefits for multiple children must somehow want children to be in poverty. It's about how you go about these things. It's that whole thing about, you know, if you want to feed a man, give him fish tonight, but if you want to feed a man or a woman or whoever for the future, then you give him a fishing rod and teach him how to catch fish. It's that old analogy. You know, handouts are all very well. Sometimes they're needed for, I wanted to say deserving cases, but that's always a controversial thing to say. But some people need handouts. Of course they do. They fall on hard times. They get sick. None of us at Talk, I don't know anyone at Talk who says that we don't want any welfare state at all. But it's become so bloated, and it should not be a lifestyle choice. And we all know that it categorically is a lifestyle choice for many people.
Now, finally, let's end on something a little bit fun, shall we? Is because Rachel from the Customer Services Helpline, as well as lying on her CV about the job she had as a top economist and all the rest of it, has also told what sounds on the surface like a minor porcupine about being the British girls under 14 chess champion. It turns out that not only was she not the chess champion, she came 26th out of 34 in the tournament and was even beaten by her own sister. They're crying out loud.
Oh my, I mean, you know, this woman's CV and life story seems to be a work of quite some creativity, doesn't it? I mean, good for her that she was in any chess tournament. I mean, I would come, you know, 34 out of 34 if I was in a chess tournament, but I would also keep quiet about it and perhaps not add that to my long list of boasts about my illustrious career.
Isabel, it's been wonderful catching up with you, my darling. I really hope we get to see each other soon. I might be going over to see her in person because this country is cold and bleak, isn't it?